Facebook, welcome to the Jumping Elephant Expert Series. Again, my name is Sarah Kirkpatrick. I own Jumping Elephant, and we're going to be doing a series of live videos, not only promoting social media tips for businesses, but also interviewing experts like Cassandra Cummings here. Hi. She is an expert in museums and kind of all things history. So we're going to be going over what museums are doing and using social media for to bring people in, to engage them. Cassandra has a master's in classical art and archaeology, a bachelor of archaeology and medieval history. She also has qualifications in museum studies, art history, collections, and archives. She's also worked right here in Calgary as the curator for Lougheed House, right downtown. Adorable little place, great gardens in the summer. Should put that in your promotion for the museum, right? Yeah. And she also worked in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Museum, which is pretty impressive, as well as the British Museum in London, England, where she actually got her master's. So a well-traveled historian.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cassandra, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I worked in museums and heritage for more than 10 years, which is a bit crazy. Starting at the Glenbow Museum, also in Calgary. And I worked at Heritage Park, Lougheed House, as Sarah said. The Firefighters Museum of Calgary I'm currently involved with, which is fantastic. They're doing lots of great outreach and pop-up galleries, and it's awesome. So that's been amazing. And I currently also volunteer with a bunch of organizations. So I am on the historic committee of the Calgary Stampede, and I'm a board member of Calgary Heritage, as well as being involved with things like Doors Open Calgary, which goes behind the scenes of...
That's a cool program.
Yeah, of sites in Calgary, so...
You get to see what they do behind the scenes with all the bones and the old jewelry. And
yeah.
They do have a close eye on you, though. You can't just take the jewelry.
Guided tours.
All right, so let's get into it a little bit. Social media is being used in museums a lot more lately. It's kind of obviously spreading quickly. And museums have found really unique ways of not only bringing people in, which we'll talk about later, but engaging people while they're there. And that's something that a lot of businesses can learn from, is how to keep people involved and engaged and promoting from within. So I know that they started a thing that I've kind of partaken a little bit, and it used to be really popular just kind of amongst the museum history people, and I think it's really getting more widespread, which is the hashtag museumselfie. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is and the success and where it came from?
Yeah, so Museum Selfie is, a really fun way to engage with museums and collections. Museums have kind of started realizing that there's different ways of learning and different audiences, and it's not enough anymore to kind of just have your display with a text panel. People want to engage with collections and objects and cool things in different ways. And one of those ways is, well, we have all this social media. How do we use that? And there's been some great thinkers, including, her name is Mar Dixon. I follow her on Twitter, and she's kind of the, I guess, guru of doing these hashtags. And the most well-known one is Museum Selfie. And that's just a fun way of, it definitely started behind the scenes, like you said. So I did a few where it's my chance to take a selfie of work I'm doing that no one gets to see, right? I work in collections, which is very behind the scenes, making in the basement or in a, or in a warehouse offsite somewhere that you never get to see. Yeah, really glamorous. Where artifacts are housed and conserved and protected, but people are interested. What happens there and what things are on display? But it's evolved into this way of interacting with the public where we say, okay, show us your museum selfie. Go into the museum and either take a selfie with maybe your favorite object or a weird object, or mimic the pose. Those are some of my favorites. Is the one that always comes to mind is like people reenacting Beyonce's Single Ladies with a bunch of Greek statues in the background, because they're all kind of doing the thing. Or people making it look as if art or statues are taking selfies of themselves. So I've seen a few like the Mona Lisa or statues. The one thing, you should never touch the art. There's been a few broken statue incidents.
I saw on Facebook about that.
Yeah, so some people aren't so keen on this because people kind of step over the line. I'm definitely use this as a way to engage with new audiences, new people who maybe have never been in before or never noticed an artifact before. And they're obviously engaging to the point where they have to think about, okay, well, how am I going to pose? How am I going to mimic, right? So they have to actually look at the art to do it. Whereas a lot of critics are like, oh, they're just going in to take a picture. But it's not just taking a picture, right? They're engaging with the art in a new way.
And they're promoting it.
Yeah, and promoting it.
So even if they are just taking a picture,
yeah,
someone on their feed might
go and be like, oh, I didn't know that exists.
Yeah.
So Museum Selfie is the big one. But there's been lots of other now hashtags. So Museum Selfie is kind of media famous right now. The media's caught on and they print all the funniest ones and it's great. But there's things like Art Meme and Culture Week and Museum Week, which is in June, I think, this year. And there's a different theme every day. So that's usually a behind the scenes kind of thing. But if the theme is, I don't know, rocks. Not a great theme. But, probably not one of the themes. But museums then have a chance to talk about interesting things to do with rocks. Maybe it's the biggest rock, the most expensive rock. Maybe that's a diamond. Maybe that's a meteor.
My favorite kind of rock.
Yeah. Maybe, you know, how are you interpreting it? And it's a fun way to engage. There's also Ask a Curator Day. And that's a chance on Twitter or Facebook for, you know, if you really want to know something about the museum, what's your biggest object, your most expensive object, the craziest thing you've ever done? You
what
can
is
go
the easiest
on.
object to steal?
I mean, we probably won't answer that one, but, you know, it's a chance to engage with curators who are experts who you don't normally get to see, and they're there at their computer answering these questions. So it's fun. It brings attention to new things. It gives a new way to engage, and it lets behind the scenes staff kind of come out and say, I'm here, and I play, and I exist. And then there's more serious ones too. So in the past little bit, there's been hashtag Day of Facts. That was a response to Trump and Conway's alternative facts.
Alternative.
So, alternative facts. So museums kind of responded with Day of Facts. And they were tweeting real facts about climate change and global warming and just all sorts of things to say, no, there's real facts. They mean something, right? So it's kind of taking back things. There was Queer Museum Week, so what objects are related to LGBTQ history. That's cool. Kind of hidden behind the scenes because that's been repressed for a long time. Recently there was also can you name 5 women in art? So it was hashtag 5 women in art. And everyone can name Da Vinci and Picasso and whatever. Okay, well, none of those are women. But women exist. Women are artists. So who can name 5 women artists? So that's kind of a way to bring that out. So hashtags on Twitter is definitely a big one.
And Instagram.
Yeah, and Instagram for sure. Definitely Instagram. And I mean, there's lots of just beautiful Instagram accounts too. Some of the really big art museums, like you could just browse for days on beautiful objects.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in Europe a few years ago, and I was in tons of museums because that's what you do in Europe. And I took selfies with every elephant I saw in the museum, but Museum Selfie didn't exist yet, so I just kind of was posting them anyway. So it kind of gave people who may have been doing it anyway, you know, a productive use of that.
Yeah, like a focus point.
Yeah.
Which is good. And I think now museums are kind of becoming more okay with this. Yeah. I think some people are really reluctant to open it up because they don't really see the point, or they're a bit afraid to lose control of their collections. But I think it's, you know, it's important for engagement, and museum staff needs to realize they're still the experts. They still know about the objects. They're still taking care of the objects. Right. But this is just a way to bring in a different audience and let them share how they want to share, right?
Yeah. So I had one question for the Ask a Curator Day. How is that impacting like people's jobs? Like, that must be a lot of time commitment. Are they setting time apart for that? Is that opening up a whole new slew of potential jobs in the industry of kind of managing that?
So Ask a Curator Day specifically, it's just one day.
Okay.
Just so it's time limited. A lot of the really big museums, so say like the Met or the British Museum, will kind of slot 1 hour per different department. Like those museums are so huge that they have an Asian collections curator and a dinosaur curator and a
diamonds curator.
Diamonds curator. And so they'll tell you ahead of time, diamonds curator will be here from 1 until 2 answering your questions. Okay. And then, so it's a bit more manageable. You don't have to devote huge amounts of your time to do it.
Right.
So it's an easy way to just you know, kind of go on Facebook or Twitter for an hour, but still engage with people.
Right. Mm-hmm. And Museum Selfie, hashtag Museum Selfie, is kind of an example of the strength of what we call a branded hashtag. It may not have the company name in it because all museums can use it, but for small businesses, having a hashtag specific to an event that you're putting on or your company allows, you know, people to interact with your brand on all the different platforms, and also gives you user-generated content. So anytime hashtag Museum Selfie is used, it gives all of those museums content for their own pages to retweet, and that's kind of why coming up with these unique hashtags is really beneficial. Aside from hashtags, what other kind of creative things have museums been doing to use social media to engage with people?
Yeah, so a few examples are, I love on Twitter again, the New York Public Library, so not strictly a museum, but they have a lot of really cool archival collections, so old books and papers and things like that. If you tweet New York Public Library, so NYPL, emoji bot, any emoji, they will go into the collection and tweet you back a photo to do with that emoji.
Oh, what?
Yeah, like
that's cool. Everyone try that.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you hashtag what?
So it's at NYPL emoji bot.
Like, is it a picture of emoji with the word bot? Or?
No, the word emoji.
Okay.
And then BOT.
Okay.
So it's a bot. But so I was just making sure it still existed this morning, and I tweeted them a picture, the emoticon or the emoji with an angel wings. And I got back a medieval angel picture from their collection. So you could just sit there all day, tweet them zucchinis and eggplants and devils and
eggplant.
They probably don't know what. No.
The statue of David.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just fun because you don't know what you're gonna get, and it's a way of engaging. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be in New York at the public library, but you're still learning about their collection. And it's just fun, right? Which emoji can stump them? So far, I've not found one, but it's interesting what you get back.
So just to clarify, because I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Hashtag, at
NYPL.
And then you write like angel wings.
EMOGI bot. Yeah. And then you go in and pick the emoji.
Okay.
Yeah. So send them the emoji.
Clear.
Yeah.
Probably just for me. You guys all probably got the first time, but here we go. I'm ready.
Yeah. So that's a fun one, and a couple museums are starting to do that now. Those sorts of things. Pokemon Go. So maybe not so much now, but when it first came out, it was huge, obviously. Who wasn't playing it, and it was everywhere.
And who wasn't offering discounts for coming in. And we have one in our store. You have to buy a coffee.
Yeah, and people were dropping lures. You would go and eat pizza there. And, well, some museums started realizing we can do that too. Because some museums have these amazing objects that everyone knows about. And they were gyms and Pokestops and things like that. So suddenly all these people are coming in, walking around with their phones. Like, where's the Pikachu?
Hopefully not banging into things.
Yeah, hopefully not banging into things. And some museums kind of put together either like a map, like here's where all the things are. Or it was a good way to direct people. Okay, now you've got this Squirtle. Why don't you head up to floor 2 to the fish section of the museum.
See where Squirtle lives in its natural habitat.
Yeah. So especially good in natural history museum collections because they could kind of connect, okay, well this Pokemon was obviously modeled after a... So Pokemon Go is actually one that was really interesting for that. Snapchat. So I don't have Snapchat, but some museums have Snapchat, and it's really popular for, again, a different audience. So Los Angeles County Museum of Art, LACMA, has one, and so does the Boston Fine Arts Museum. And the Boston Fine Arts Museum, I guess, Snapchats an emoji art history lesson once a week. So I don't know quite how that works, but it's super popular, and then they kind of convert that to Instagram after.
Yeah.
So,
save it on their story.
So...
Jeez.
So Snapchat, definitely Instagram. I mean, there's lots of just beautiful object ones. Memes. So some museums are really good at memes, and they have funny sayings. And back to hashtags on Twitter. Things like, I was just looking at the Royal Ontario Museum's accounts, and when the Super Bowl was on, they used hashtag Super Bowl, so jumping on an already trending one. And then they were tweeting pictures of just really cool bowls in their collection. So 15th century Ming, bowl from China, like all the art on it.
Hashtag Super Bowl.
Yeah, a Super Bowl. Yeah, so things like that. So I think there's some museums that are really good at keeping up with things.
Yeah, and I tell all my clients, like, we try to look up, there's International Waffle Day, and there's so many just random days that you can get on board with, and you don't have to be really literal, like that's a great example, just trying to get a way to get your product out there for those kind of trending bandwagon opportunities. So did you have any creative ideas that you can think of that you could use for your next project?
Ooh, I mean, I'm not, unfortunately, specifically in charge of anything like that at the moment, but previously at Lougheed House, I mean, we were quite a small team, so we all worked together. I think there were like 8 to 10 employees, so even though I was in, again, collections in the basement.
Basement, no window corner.
No windows, working with collections, which was great. When we were working on exhibits together, we would have meetings, and that's a chance to kind of brainstorm about those other areas, programming and marketing. So for a few, there was, guess the artifact, right? So we would take a close-up of an artifact, see if anyone got it, go a bit farther away, see if anyone got it. Sometimes there would be a contest associated, so sometimes you could win a membership. We also did, exhibit-specific hashtags. Like you were saying earlier, like have specific hashtags for your business or your product. Do that with an exhibit too, because then it gathers all that content in one place. So we did that with, we did a small grain elevator exhibit. Which is very popular with certain members of our staff, but which was good. And we did a few interactive elements in the exhibit. So we had this big cardboard cutout in the shape of a grain elevator. And got people to put their memories, what does that mean to you? Because this was about, grain elevators are a part of our heritage, and here's some great photos, but they're disappearing. But I think everyone kind of has, if you're from Alberta or Saskatchewan, Prairie Province, a memory of one rising up out of the distance. Yeah, you've definitely seen one. So, which is your favorite one? What does it mean to you? Did you grow up next door to one? And so we had a hashtag for that. And people could share their memories online too. So like that.
And I just thought of one while I was sitting here. Feel free to steal it. I just remember we had a letter that my papa had wrote to my nana when he was in the war on a Navy ship. And like, oh, my dear, I love you, I miss you. And just taking excerpts from those kinds of old letters because the language is just so different. Yeah. And then coming up with some, I don't know what the hashtag would be, but some kind of hashtag, and then using Twitter, which is awesome for just short little scripts and posting those kind of new, just as engagements, right? Just interesting things, and you can come up with anything, really, and add a hashtag if you want to, or have people tag you, or just put it out there for people to be engaged with, because I love listening to those old letters. They're so eloquent, and they give the information without having to use LOL at any point in there. So, okay, let me check my notes because I'm not a professional interviewer. All right, so we've talked about having engagement in the museums. So how do you get people into the museums so that you can engage with them? There's lots of, in the past, it's all kind of traditional, like billboards and signs and radio once in a while. And how are people using social media now to get people into the museums that may have not heard about them before or never thought that it was for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is sort of not just social media necessarily, right? It's hard to kind of convince people to do something they don't think is for them in a way, right? A lot of people are just, oh, a museum isn't for me, right? Well, you're not going to know unless you go. One thing is that immediately comes to mind is kind of after hours events or special events. So recently, Glenbow Museum now does free First Thursdays. Yeah. And one of the main ways they get that across, of course, on their website and things like that, but is social media, right? On Facebook. Someone RSVPs, you share it, they share it. Oh my God, it's free. Let's go. I haven't been since we were 5 at that field trip. So definitely that. And same thing with National Music Center. They just had an event, 18 plus. DJs were there and food trucks and all that sort of thing. And I think, again, the big way was people sharing it on Facebook and Twitter, RSVPing, sharing it with their friends, planning a night out. And it was really busy, really popular. It sold out. And it's a different way to engage, too. Even if you'd been to the National Music Center in the day, It's a very different experience than going at night when there's a DJ and a food
Yeah,
truck.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I think
yeah,
we should
so
go.
it was just the first one. So the second one is coming up April 21st, I think. Yeah, on a Friday, whatever the Friday is.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a different theme every time. But TELUS Spark does that too. Adults only
Adult night.
Yeah, right? So there's always a bar and a different theme, and again, though, just social media sharing. But that's a way to get people who wouldn't traditionally come to museums
Right.
in.
So
Right?
it's pairing new traditional ideas, such as the events, with promoting it on social media.
Yeah, and I think the type of events too, right?
Yeah.
You know, the Glenbow still does sketching classes and children's activities and school programs, which is a staple of any museum, right? But now they're pairing it with, okay, let's bring a bar into a museum, which...
This is what they drank in the 1700s.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, let's make a themed cocktail. Either, like, historically themed or around a piece of art or
Rocks.
the new exhibit. Rocks. Maybe
Gin
they
on
put
the
pop
rocks.
rocks. Yeah,
Oh, or
gin
that.
on the rocks.
Yeah, it's cooler.
Lots of rocks. Yeah, lots of different ways to do rocks. You know, so thinking about events in a more creative way, or... different types of exhibits, and making things more interactive, and just making sure there's something for everyone to do instead of just here's a text panel and an object. You know, I'm going to read the whole text panel.
I am not going near a text panel.
No one else is reading the text panel. And even text panels now, it's instead of just here's the whole book of information, it's layered, right? So you could go and read, you know, elephants in the 19th century, and you're like, okay, I know what this is about, but you don't have to read all the whatever to know what it's about. So there's more thinking behind that sort of stuff too. But there is definitely this, let's do a sleepover in the museum. Let's do night at the museum.
I did that, the Frank slide.
Yeah. So they were way ahead of the game.
For the long time.
Yeah, a long time ago. But
terrifying.
But yeah, more museums are starting to do stuff like that, right? And capitalize on things like Night at the Museum. When Night at the Museum came out, you know, those museums that are featured in it are going to do something around that, right? Like, come watch the movie in the museum, right?
Yeah.
Or spend the night at the museum, which I think even maybe 10, 20 years ago, they'd be a bit more reluctant to do that, right? Like, you want to take 20 kids and let them sleep here in the collection.
Yeah. With all these very expensive,
one-of-a-kind objects. But, it's about managing, security and things like that. And you know, teach kids in a fun way, okay, we're going to do all this hands-on stuff over here. We're going to have a sweet sleepover. We're going to have popcorn, but just not over here by this 2,000-year-old piece of paper.
And people do museums so differently, and the two people sitting here are prime examples of polar opposites. Cass likes to obviously go through and learn about each piece, and I'm more of like a show me the hot spots and I'll skim past the rest of them. And I remember Cass was trying to get me more involved in maybe trying to convince me to go to a museum, that I don't have to just read planks and cry myself to sleep. So she started sending me elephants on Instagram all the time and tagging me. And that's, I mean, she works in the industry, but people sharing those things with their friends. Oh, I know you love cats. Look at this cat I found. And here, this is where I am. So just kind of acknowledging that there's something for everybody. There's people out there, and you just have to give them their own reasons to go. So I like museums now. Natural history is still my favorite, but they're all kind of pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I think just more people need to realize, because museums can be overwhelming, especially like when you're at the Louvre or the British Museum.
I did that in a day.
You don't know what's happening. They're so big that, you don't have to like or see everything. And sometimes it's impossible, right? Like, you did the Louvre in a day, but you didn't see everything in a day.
I saw the best parts.
But, pick an itinerary for yourself. And now museums are starting to know that, too. So they'll do a kids tour. They'll do a highlights tour. Yeah, you can pick
up brochures at the front. That's like, these are the things.
Yeah, or audio tours, or kind of, especially for kids, like activity books. And then it kind of directs their attention, too. But, or like with Sarah, I said, we'll go through and just try and find all the elephants then, right? Like, like you don't have to look at every label and every object and because that's a lot.
And they're even, I mean, getting us away from social media for a moment. Museums offer, they have like cases full of tiny little coins and little arrowheads and things that I don't care much about. But also at the Louvre, Napoleon's apartment, you could actually like walk through what his apartment would have looked like, and there's like lavish curtains and couches, and you can't sit on any of it, but it's really cool to be in that. So, and then obviously I took 6,000 pictures and put it on my blog and put it on Instagram, and I mean, not like the Louvre is struggling to find people, but if you, smaller museums and or companies can find things that are shareable information and shareable pictures and you know, something that other people might be interested in, and then decide, I think my following will also enjoy this. So kind of redesigning what you might be offering for this new age of shareability. And you actually have a personal blog that you do yourself, and she featured my elephant excursion in it, so you can check it out. But tell us a bit about your personal blog, why you started that. Has it helped you in kind of finding that next project or that next contract, or just kind of sharing valuable information with your current fans?
Yeah, so I started the blog, I mean, partially as a way to, I guess, sort of online network and just share my expertise and kind of opinions on things. Partially it's, you know, I was going to conferences, and, you know, now I've been in the field for a while and all these new ideas are happening. So how do you share those or talk about those ideas? And I think I really wanted to start the blog to make people understand, you know, museums can be for everyone. And here's why, right? Like, it doesn't have to be we're spending a stuffy, you know, talking to each other for 3 hours afternoon at wherever. You know, go and pick the elephants out and do your own scavenger hunt. If you don't like modern art, that's okay. Like,
this is a ball. It's a beautiful ball.
I write about modern art a lot. But, you know, and just kind of, I try and write it in a really friendly tone so that it's accessible to not just other industry professionals, and that they see that I'm talking about really important issues and debates in the field and where are we going with things like social media. But for, you know, just general people like you, like any other friends, my parents, whoever, how do you visit the Tate when you don't know anything about modern art? You know, okay, like, where do you start?
You laugh a lot.
Quietly, so you don't offend anyone else. No. But, you know, just talking about those sorts of issues. And, you know, hey, today I visited the Glenbow, here's some cool things. And yeah, here's some maybe updates the museum needs to do, right? So part of it is talking about, you know, I did how to visit a historic house museum and why am I doing this? Like, that was one of my blogs, because historic sites are very different than a traditional museum. Where do you start as a person who's never been to a historic site before? Versus, yeah, what can the Glenbow update? Exhibit-wise, because now I start noticing things like that light switch is not working, and
you've been there a lot.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm just kind of trained what isn't working and why, who is engaging with this and who isn't. I listen to comments people make and things like that. So part of it is, can we sort of start a conversation around this? And part of it is, yeah, museums are cool and fun and they can be for everyone. So that's kind of what my blog is a mixture of.
Right. And I mean, I stress blogs so much to everybody. Every one of my clients, anyone I meet on the street, try to have a blog if you're a writer. If not, I mean, it's just too painful. But if there's a way that you can have blogs out there, it's a great way to share information. It's a good way to be an expert in your field. And also, I mean, obviously all the behind the scenes stuff, the SEO and getting people to your site, and for individuals, I mean, if you're looking for jobs or looking for projects or whatever, it gets your name out there. But as a business, you know, it gets people to your website. So I always say the 80-20 rule. You don't want to sell anything in these blogs very often. 20% of the time, every 2 of 10 blogs do it on your prices or your sales or a promo or whatever it is. And the other times, just position yourself as an expert and give advice and give your thoughts. And you can take someone else's topic and give your own thoughts, maybe contradicting that or starting a conversation. So just putting information out there, and that's kind of what Cass did. When I was in school, in college, I started a blog just critiquing advertisements. I actually just removed them from my current website, Jumping Elephants page, but I was getting over 300 hits a day on my Coke versus Pepsi band ad. Like, I guess that is a very big Google. I decided the traffic probably wasn't, I mean, it was good to have. I might put that one back up, but...
Yeah, maybe you should do a follow-up.
Yeah,
Have you seen the Kendall Jenner one?
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll start the reviews again. But just even getting that traffic in, I don't imagine that everyone hiring me is going to be... I mean, they're not coming to my site looking for Coke and Pepsi and then want a digital marketing strategy after. But traffic is really good, and I've just decided to position my blog a little bit differently. But just getting started, just start writing things, and it can be partially related, it can be really related, some of them can be sales, but just having a blog for your business or you as a person, as an expert in something that you can kind of tag your business in or link to other pages and get a name for yourself. So you're ahead of the curve. You've been doing that blog for a while now.
I know. I looked last night. It's like 2.5 years. That's crazy. That's a lot.
Ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
So I hope you learned a little bit. Go home. Don't go home. Go to a museum. Do museum #museumselfie. Also, try that emoji tweet thing. I'm going to send an eggplant. I'm going to see what I get.
Happens.
Yeah. And maybe
You can visit my blog. It's WordPress. YYC Museum Fiend.
YYC Museum Fiend.
Yeah. Same with Twitter.
Yeah.
That's my Twitter too.
We'll put a link to her blog on the Jumping Elephant page after this. And maybe we'll do put up an example of a #museumselfie.
Ooh,
and then I would like you all to share your #museumselfies under that. Even if you just have a picture of you that you didn't know it existed, you can go back in Instagram and just add that hashtag on there.
Yeah.
And then share it on our page so we can see what everyone's doing. So thank you, everyone. Again, this was our expert series. We're going to be doing these. I'm not going to give you a timeline because I don't know one yet, but hopefully at least once a month, maybe every 2 months. And thank you, Cassandra, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And everyone, get to the museums. Natural history, probably the best.
Or all of them. Cool too.
Bye!